And there is a link open on week 4 if you want to test the video app with your iOS device. You can click on that link from your device, and it'll install it on your device. You can test it. How's everybody doing this morning? All right, week 4, final week. Nice day out today too, by the way. That always helps. Okay, I'm going to show the app we'll be creating today, which is the video app, which I put a link on the our homepage. Yep. Haven't tested it yet. You can. You'll be testing yours anyway today. So, so there it is. It's my video app right there at the bottom, right next to my contacts last week. So the way it works is the app launches. Very simple. The one we're going to do today actually will just have a button in the middle called record. This is the one I'm going to have you guys do as a additional to the in-class for this week. The one you're going to do in class will just have a button called record. You tap the record button there, and then you have an option to select existing videos you've already taken. And the concept behind the app is, unlike the native video app in the iPhone and even Droids, they let you take videos, but they don't really allow you to caption them and store them to where you can, find them easily. You have to kind of search all through them, try to find them. This is one way to manage your videos. So anyway, here's one taken yesterday of my coffee cup. Really fancy video there. But you're able to, once you have the video, you can delete it. If you want to, you can go back in, and if you wanted to change the name of the video for whatever reason, you can do that. And then lastly, you can take a new video, and I'll put in here bootcamp, and tap record, and I can do it without my cord falling out here. I'll just do like 5 seconds. There we go. Stop it. And then I'm able to tap use. We'll bring it back to this screen. Hit save. And now I'm ready to play that anytime after that. One of the other things I've done with this app is on this page, put a share button to be able to share it on social media. And you can actually just, you can find that code. It's real easy to find the share code on GitHub. A lot of good examples for iOS 10. And I have some examples too on the iOSBootCamp or the iOS course repo. There's a repo in there on sharing social media, and you can follow along the examples on that. But that's just a very plain Jane app the way it stands right now. So that's what we'll be creating today. It utilizes in this app video. I'll put it on the next screen that we had up here earlier. The AVI recording method within iOS. Also, core database is also used again this week. The core database is used for storing the data and retrieving the data. And core database backend, in your reading, if you've done your reading, you've noticed it's a SQLite database backend. So it's built on SQL, but the managing part of it, or the creation part of core database, is fairly simple as far as creating a core database. The name of the database, which is like last week it was contact, this week it's going to be video. Then you put whatever fields you want in there with what type of field those are. Last week it was all string type. This week it's all going to be string type. But you can create types of fields to, like, say, be a picture type, which is an object. But core database is fairly easy to set up and utilize and even call. In Swift version, the latest version we're working on now, 3, you used to have to, and I had to strip it out of the tutorial for this week. Last year when we did the iOS bootcamp, which is just one version to go with Swift, you had to create a core database instance. After you created the database, you had to go up and edit and go to editor and create an NS managed database for core database. You don't have to do that anymore. So they've stripped out a few steps you don't have to do anymore when you're creating a core database. So really the only thing you need to remember when you're creating a core database is checkbox. I suggest if it's going to be a core database app, if you ever think it's going to be, check the box when you create it for core database. You can add core database post app creation, but it's a lot more difficult because you have to go into app delegate and put in some things that aren't there initially if core database isn't checked. Does that make sense? And so if you ever think an app you're going to create is going to have a database, even though the version 1 might not have a database, go ahead and check core database because it's not going to hurt to have it in there. And that way when you have it in there, it's easy to add it post creation. The other thing about core database, if you ever add new fields to a core database, after you initially add your fields, like say you create your database instance, name, you put your fields in there, and then you decide, well, I should have added another field or another 2 fields or whatever. If you do that, I'm going to show you this morning how you have to go into your simulator folder and you need to delete that instance of your code on the Mac before you can recompile. Because what's going to happen is if you don't do that on core data, it'll crash because it's going to use the existing core database creation that you created on the first time. And so you have to wipe it out basically. So I'll show you how to do that. It's a pretty simple procedure, but if you don't do that, it will crash. So what I always tell students is when you're creating a database, spend some time thinking about the fields you're going to want and even future fields. And what I've done is this. In the past, I've done, if I know I'm going to use, say, 10 fields or whatever in a database app, I'll go and put in 10 more fields, and I'll call them Miss 1, Miss 2, Miscellaneous 1, Miscellaneous 2, all the way through Miscellaneous 10. That way, God forbid, if I need another field, I've already got padding for that in the database. Does that make sense? So, because you're always going to forget stuff. As much work you put into it on the front end, you're going to forget a field, or you're going to think, it'd be cool to have that field to pull later. So I always add in at least 10 miscellaneous fields that I'm not going to use right now, but I could use in the future. That makes sense? And so that helps a lot. Trying to think of what else on core database I want to mention. Oh no, this is on the video part. On video recording or picture taking. So if you're taking a picture with your app or you're taking a video with your app, it will not work on the simulator. You can't test it on the simulator. You have to have a real iOS device to do that. And while I'm talking about iOS devices, I know some of you borrowed your iPad mini. Go ahead and keep that for the next couple of weeks. I know this next week we'll talk about deadlines for this assignment. I think it's next week. But in the next couple of weeks, if you can just turn it in to the CIS office upstairs, and I'll let Joan know that you're going to be turning it in the next couple of weeks. And she'll have you sign a piece of paper that you turned it in. That's it. No big deal. And all I'll mention to you is before you leave today, I want to make sure you know how to wipe everything out of your own. That way you can wipe it out before you turn it in. And that's about it. And so no big deal beyond that. That way I want you to be able to have it for this week to do my video app, plus maybe an extra week or whatever to play with it a little bit more. And so, and by the way, if you ever want to purchase an iOS device, a real reasonable place to find them is on the Apple App Store in the refurb area. Always has refurbed Mac Minis and iOS iPads, iPhones, even I'm trying to think what iPod, or I think they call iTouches now. That's what it's called. It used to be called iPod. Now it's iTouch. Sometimes you can find like $150, $200 off the regular price. So I check there before I buy a brand new one. I always check there on the refurb site, because the refurb you get the same exact warranty as you do on a new device. A lot of people don't know that, and so just a heads up if you're thinking about buying iOS in the future. So testing, you can put all the code in like we will today. And today when we do the tutorial, we're going to do a little different. Instead of copy and pasting your code, I'm actually going to have you type it in. There's not a lot of code, but you type in all the code in for the view controller, type in all the code in for the core data grid, and not a lot of code. And you'll be putting some lines, I think, in the info.p list, because in iOS 10, you have to give the user that little prompt that says, oh, by the way, we're going to use your camera. Oh, by the way, we're going to store photos or videos in your device. And then there's one other one on, I think it is something about, oh, microphone. Since you're doing video, it records mic, it records the input of audio. So you have to give the user prompt for that as well. So there's 3 sections of code we'll have to update the info.p list with. Otherwise, when we go to test it on your iOS device, it will not work. It'll crash. And talking about testing on your device, I do have everyone in the your devices in the store for developers. I don't have everybody's name in the developer list right now, so not everyone accepted them yet. So what I'm going to do is during test time, I will have you submit your code to GitHub. I'll download it on my Mac, connect your device to it on my Mac, and then that's the way you'll test it for now. But there is a way to test your app called side loading, which I actually have in on the course homepage, where it says side loading into iOS devices. The way side loading works is, now if you have not accepted the Apple ID dev invite I sent you, you can do this. If you have accepted, you can't do this one. So if you have accepted the developer link I sent you, or developer invite, I believe it was, invitation from Apple. How many's done that, by the way? How many did that? 1 or 2 of you? Okay. So I would say at this point, if you've not accepted that developer invite, don't do it. You can use that Apple ID then that you did create earlier this, 2 or 3 weeks ago. And for you that did accept it already, you can just create a brand new Apple ID. And the brand new Apple ID will be used to do what's called side loading. Let me talk about that for a second. Side loading allows you to install apps on your iOS and your friends and family's iOS devices without a developer license, okay? And so Apple opened this up about 1.5 years ago. You just have to make sure that your iOS device has the latest iOS updates applied to them. You have to make sure you have Xcode, the latest updates on that Xcode platform. You create a free Apple ID, which you guys have already done. What I suggest is for side loading, create an Apple ID just for side loading. I do that. I've done that before. It doesn't take a minute to create one. You basically go through these steps here on side loading, and you basically add that new Apple ID to the preferences in Xcode. Once you do that, in Xcode on the drop down, we've been selecting the Rock Valley College team. You'll select your team, which will be that new personal iCloud account that you just created. What Apple will do is recognize you're not a developer. There'll be a little button that'll say you need to fix some issues. You'll hit fix if it prompts you to do that. Connect your iOS device. It'll recognize it. You go up and select that iOS device. You'll take it from away from the simulator that might be on Xcode to the iOS device itself. Run it, and it'll install that app on your device or your friends and family device. So you can do that at no charge. You don't never have to create an Apple account if you only want to create apps for family, friends, or associates. Now, it does give a limited time on the length of that account, as far as, like, an example is if you get a paid developer license, you get 1 year per certificate on an account that you use or on an app you create. Meaning the person you created the app for, on their device, they have 1 year to play with it, and then they'd have to give it back to you. You'd have to create it again, a certificate, update it. So I think with the free way to do it or the side loading way, it's not long. You don't have that long of a time. It used to be a month. It might even be like 2 weeks now or something. I don't remember. But it's not a long period of time, I don't believe. And so what that means is after a certain period of time, it won't run again. You'll have to recompile it and connect it again. And Apple's doing that, so you'll get to pay the $99 developer license, I'm sure. But it's cool they open that up, though, for developers to that don't want to yet pay for that $99 developer license to test their apps anyway for family and friends. And so, yeah, the limited side loading, I don't remember the length on that. When you do it, it'll tell you exactly how long it lasts, though. I remember that. When you create the side loading your account, it'll say this is good for X amount of days or something like that. And so you said, well, how do you re-up it on that device? You just reconnect it and it gets another whatever days to play with it. Does that make sense? So, but again, it's a free way to do it. You don't have to pay $99, and you can create apps to your heart's desire, both for iOS, for Apple TV, and even Macs. You can do that with as well. You don't have to pay the license. And so that was a good thing Apple did by opening it up. So I recommend doing that for those of you that want to do that way. You can do it that way. Post-class, I suggest, as far as if you don't have a Mac at home, couple options. One is a Mac Mini. I believe you went out and bought a Mac Mini, right? And how much was it, by the way? About 500, was it? $500, which really, for Mac to Apple device, is pretty reasonable. If you think about it, it's comparable to a Windows operating, device you could go out and buy. And so, Mac Mini is what I suggest starting with as a developer, because it's not that expensive, or it's the cheapest way to go, and you get everything you would get in a MacBook Pro as far as the guts of it. And so you can cook it up to your flat screen, maybe get a wireless keyboard mouse. There you go, and you're good to go. And you can also use it as a media device too at your home for, so it has iTunes built into it. You can stream movies and music and all that good stuff. So that's what I recommend. The second way to do it, and I didn't have anybody bite up on this, but I do have a compiled version for VMware that I've kept updated. It'll work on a Windows operating system. You just have to download VMware. I don't remember how big it is. It's like 70 gigs. It's a 70 gig file that you have to bring over from my external drive to your computer. We have to change a line in your BIOS to be able to recognize VMware, and that's it. And then you're good to go. So if you want to do that, I don't mind setting up a time sometime this summer to help you get that on your laptop. If you can't afford a Mac Mini, I don't want you to just say, okay, well, I can't develop then. If you have a good Windows laptop, it'll work on that just fine. I've had students do it. Now, because it's virtual, it's not as quick as native Mac would be, but you can still get the job done. If that makes sense. It's a little sluggisher than a native device, but it works, and that's the main thing. Until you can afford to maybe get a Mac, maybe that'd be an option to do. So if you want to do that, let me know. Shoot me an email. We'll set up a time, and I'll come in here on a weekday or a Saturday morning, and even this summer, and it'll take probably about an hour, and we can get it installed on your computer and be good to go. So take me up on that if you want to do that. I'd be more than glad to help you with that. So any questions before we get started? Okay, so let's talk about, I think I emailed everybody in the announcements on grades, last grade, and due date and all that good stuff. Let's see here. So week 4, this week 4 tutorials due this next Wednesday by midnight, and I think it's June 8th. I believe that's right. And I have to have the final grade submitted by next Friday, because technically finals are next week for summer session 1. And so this will be your final project. And you guys have been a great group of students. Hopefully you learned some things on iOS. And once final grade is submitted, if you have other stuff you've not yet submitted, just have it submitted by next Wednesday by midnight. That would be great. All right, let's go ahead and get started. I did have in here, by the way, I updated the course site to have in here a link for the testing of each one of the week's apps, and including this week. And then this we'll talk about at the end today is a page for an app. It's called a landing page, which you've seen a lot on new apps. Maybe people are trying to advertise. There's a website that called appsite.skygear.io. Allows you to basically take a snapshot, a screenshot of your app, upload them, put a little description, and you've got a landing page for your app. It even puts this nice little phone wrapper around it. So this phone wrapper here that you see, this image of the phone, the iPhone, this part I didn't have to upload. I just had to upload the actual inside of stuff, which on the simulator, it does allow you, and even on your phone or your iPad, you can tap the home key and the power button at the same time. You can do a screenshot of any screen, but in the simulator, you can do the same. There's a file menu in the simulator where you can save screenshot. It'll save it to your Mac desktop. And that's all I did here. And you can save up to, you can put as many images as you want. I think on this one, I did like 3 or 4 images. I did one of the home page, one when they go to the second page, and then the next one's the third page, which is where they take the, hit the record button or play button and play it. And so that's all I put on that one. So anyway, that's a challenge I'll give you to do for this week. So I'll jump right into week 4. And let's talk about, I guess, while we're talking about the assignment, what the assignment is. You're going to take what you've done after the in-class today. You'll start with the completed video tutorial that you've done today. You'll start with that. And then I'd like you, I put a time allows, you should definitely have time between now and Wednesday, to add an image of your choice to the splash screen, like I've done on my example. Create app icons. This link here takes you to a page of how to create the app icons. Just really simple, find an image, 1536 by 1536, use Pixlr, go to makeappicon.com, upload it. It'll email you a zip file. You click and drag the app icon folder into Xcode. Once you do that, you select it, run it, and now you have the icons added to your app and to the home icon and everything. Does it all for you, which is really nice. And time allows, add an image of your choice to the main view controller. And I'm talking about like this, the one I did here, which is the this little icon, this little image I found on when I did a search of my video, a video app. I found an image that looked pretty cool. I found that and used it. Do the same thing. In fact, what I do is on that, because I use that image for my icon for the app. So actually, when you develop that, Make App Icons will send you all the icon links, plus it will send you a couple images that are pretty big and pretty good quality. That's what I use for this one. And so also on this one, I have on your handout, if you look on your handout I gave you that you guys picked up on the table up here, you go to the last page, it's the page, the last page before code, I believe, before the view controller code or something like that. There is a page that says, I can find it on mine. On testing the app. Here it is. I think I have it up on the overhead too. So it's this part right here, which says what else you need to do. Add the image to the launch screen, nicer layout to main view controller, create app icon, and then the challenge, this you don't have to do, but I do challenge you to do it. It's pretty easy, is creating the app landing page with this app sitegear.io. And let me show you what that one looks like as far as creation part. Once you go to that website, bring it up here. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, but just to make sure you get it. So when you go to the page here, you just click Get Started, and you don't have an app on the App Store right now. So you just go down here. It says don't have an app on the App Store, or you've got an Android app. No worries. Input your app info here. It'll take you to the page here, and here's where you start putting in your app name, your landing page tagline, what your app's about. On the app icon, you'll grab the app icon from what makeappicon.com sent you. You'll just grab one of those icons it sent you, upload it. And then the screenshots you can use from your phone screenshot or iPad screenshot, or even from within the simulator. Use the screenshot feature within the simulator. And when we do the simulator today, I'll show you where that's at on the simulator, because we've not used that yet. And you can put your contact email here. You'll leave out the App Store and Google link. You'll hit this next. And what it'll do is it'll give you a page that's generated. And what's cool about it is they actually give you, once you generate the page, you can hit download. It'll give you all the code that you can put on anywhere. Like I put all the code for all the ones I created. I actually put them right within the GitHub page. I just put it as a root of the GitHub page. And so now when people visit each one of the weeks 1 through 4 on iOSBootCamp, they see the actual splash, the screen that was created with that app. And so that's pretty cool. And so pretty easy to do, but it's a challenge, but I think everybody can do it. Okay, let's go to discussion here on what we're going to talk or actually do in the app here, week 4 notes. So even though we're in iOS 10, technically it's the same as iOS 9 as far as not many changes as far as the libraries used for the camera. So they have what's called in the iOS, when you want to use anything with a camera, they have what's called the UI image picker class, controller class. And what this class is for is to actually take a picture, take a video, and that's its job. Pretty simple. Even like we're using here with the QR code, it uses a UI image picker class as well, because you have to use your camera to not only take a picture of my QR code up here, but then vice versa, my app takes a picture of your QR code that you have on your phone. And so anything that has to do with the camera is more likely going to use the UI image picker controller class, and for recording or taking a photo. It also is used to allow new photos to be saved to the photo library. And with the advent of iOS 10, we'll talk about in a second, you have to add now 3 lines of code in the plist for the user to be prompted to say, okay, I'm aware of this happening for this app. And you'll find that out on most apps today. They do that because developers have been sued over not letting users know explicitly what's being shared or what's being used on their app, which makes sense. So people, shouldn't be in the dark about stuff like that. And if they're wanting an app that's going to do recording, yeah, they're going to have to use a video, the UI image picker class. But again, just letting that user say yes, 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 and they can't even use the app until they've done that. Won't let them use it. So when you're creating a UI image picker controller instance, and we'll do this today in the app, every time you create, like, and I think we're putting it in the view controller. That's where that's where the button is for recording. So when a view controller is added in code, in fact, the page we were just on the binder, if you flip to the next page, which is actually the view controller.swift code, it's actually this code right here. It looks like this here on the overhead, the view controller.swift code. And if you look on line number 17 and 18 on that page there, it's kind of landscape like this is what it looks like. It's page 1 of 8, and it should say view controller.swift. And so if you see on line 17 and 18, you'll see in there on line 18 actually, class view controller, UI view controller. That's the default. That's the default for a view controller, is that right there. So in order to use any delegate beyond that, you have to add it. So you'll notice after that, I've got a comma, UI image picker controller delegate, and comma, UI navigation controller delegate, because that's in this app as well. It has a navigation controller as well. So you can't, this is how you first initiate the picker, image picker controller, is by that right there. You have to add that into the app. The other ways is some of these import statements we'll go over in a second at the top. But just for right now, know the image controller needs to be added as a delegate in that class view controller if you're going to use it on that. So the supported types of image controller is UI image picker controller is camera, saved photos album, and photo library. Camera is camera, just using your camera. Save photos library is you're using this to save a photo or a video to the library. And the third one is to view an existing photo or video. So those are the three ways to use it anyway. In a normal app of any type, you're going to either take a video or photo, save a video or photo, get a video or photo. And so these are the three methods that are used. Goes on and talks about acceptable media types. Well, since it's creating it itself, that's a no-brainer. It's going to use what it creates. And so the type it creates, though, it talks about here is KUT type image and KUT type movie definitions are used. It does use what's called the mobile core services framework, which you saw in the import, one of the import statements was mobile core services. It goes on down, it says whether or not user is permitted to perform editing before the image is passed on the application is controlled by the allow editing Boolean property. And this would be if you wanted to do editing on a picture or on a video, that would need to be enabled. So you'll see this type of code when we get into the view controller. This line here declares the image view controller. This line here assigns it as a delegate to the view controller. This line here says, okay, we're getting using the photo library. So we know by this line of code here, for this example, they're just going to be viewing images. It's a photo library. And the media types, the type image, KU type image is string, allow editing false. So we can tell by this 4 lines of code, this app's just going to be used, or this function here is just going to be used to view an image. Then the last one is the self.present view controller. pops up the actual photo library. Is what it's going to do. It'll pop it up, boom, for the user to select an image. So configuring it, I already talked about this part, and it's changed a little bit in iOS 10. But one of the things I mentioned is this line right here. Did finish picking media with info. If you go back to the handout I gave you, the one we were just on the binder, if you go to, I'll tell you what page it is here once I find it, what line it is. It's a ways down. Let's see. It's on line 192. 192, which is page 6 of 8. And 192 is function image picker controller. I have as a comment above that image picker finished recording. So this image picker controller uses the UI image picker controller, comma, did finish picking media with info, code. So what this function is, and I already put in the comment what it's for, is when the video is finished recording, you've hit use video, and it comes back to the code, this is where it goes, okay? And then here, you'll notice what I've done here, and this is not going to be in your reading, and I'll tell you why I did this. On 194, I want to create a random variable, all right, of any int variable random, and it's an arc4 random is what I use, which just creates a random variable, whole variable. Line 197 declares a variable called temp image. It comes from that UI image picker view controller. Whatever video I've just taken now, it saves it as a URL in the temp image variable. Line 200 is a path of where we're going to use that variable, where it's going to save to. Notice it says NS search path for directories and domains. It uses a iOS devices document directory. And true means we can save it and we can use it. Line 203, I name the video here with whatever the user typed in the text box. And the one we did this morning is an example. I put what? iOSBootCamp. So it'd be iOSBootCamp plus myvar, which is that random number, dot MOV, which is a type of video that iOS records when it records is the MOV extension. And it has to be in all caps. If it's not in all caps, it won't work when you go to play it later when you're pulling it. Because remember, we're getting ready to save this in just a second in core data. Core data is going to use all this to pull it later if we want to play it. Line 205 takes the path of the video, which is on line 200, and the name of the file video, or that the backslash is basically for a file directory. You have the name of the path, backslash the name of the file. Excuse me. Then let's see here. On the do statement, I have commented out 206. We're not using that one. On the do statement, what it does is from do 207 down to 221, what this is doing is grabbing on line 208 the actual movie itself, okay, from the temp image, from the directory. 209, it's writing it to the actual camera directory, camera storage. 210 is the relative path of that, storing that. And I put that in a public variable I created called vidlink, which will be used later when we save it into core data. So 211 is pretty crucial because vidlink is going to be used for core data to store where exactly this video is found on my phone or iPad. And then this print statement is just so I can see in the Xcode what it actually did, where it saved it to. 214, UI save video, a path to save photos live album. It actually does exactly what it sounds like it's doing in the name. It's saving the video, in this case, not photo, to the photo library, is all it's doing. Then I take the save button and I enable it, and the save button is actually in the app on the upper right corner, because initially when you come to the view screen, it's disabled, because all they're getting ready to do is create a video, so they can't save it until they've created it. So now the save video is enabled, and then the self.dismiss animated true, basically all it does is takes it back to the view controller to where the user can hit the save button. All right. So let me go back. Now that we've done that, since we're already in here, let's go up to the save button since we're talking about that. The save button is actually, if you find the line before I do, let me know. It's BTN save. Here it is, 155. 55, line 55, which is page number 2, right? 2 of 8. So 55, here's what's going to happen on 55. If video DB is not equal to nil, this means if the user's tapped one of the lines on the main screen of an existing video, it's not going to be nil, meaning it's going to play a video in this case. But we're going to pretend that we just created a video and we're going to go to this else path, meaning it's a brand new video. We've named it. We've taken the video, because in the app, you're not allowed to take the video until you've named it. So it won't even let you it won't even let you record if you haven't named it. So we've named it, we've recorded it. Now we've hit the save button to save it. And we've already went through that function I just went through that got all the path of the video, it named the video. Now you'll see on line 63 where it says let entity description equals NS entity description entity for entity video. That entity video is from core data. Remember last week on the My Contacts, you created an entity called contacts. This week we created an entity called video. So what this line of code does is creates in a variable called entity description a manage object context for core data for the entity video. So all it's doing is saying, okay, we've grabbed the video table now, video database in the table, and all the tables and all the fields for video. Line 67, let photo D equals video entity description, insert into manage object context. Now insert into is what line I want to focus on. Insert into means we're getting ready to insert this data into the database. So we're writing one line of code, one record. We're writing one record to the database. Now, if you're familiar at all with database language, there's only a few things you can do in a database. You can insert, update, delete, and that's it. Insert, update, delete. That's all you can do, right? Same thing with core data. You'll see that in the code, because one of the things you can do in this, once you've saved a video, you can come back and edit the name. In that case, you would, instead of insert, you would update. But we'll talk about that in a second. So let's see here. Next, we have the name, photod.name. Photod.name is actually the name field in core data. Name is the actual core data name that we're going to use. It gets its data from the text name, which for the one we did earlier today in class, it would have been iOSBootCamp. The date stamp is done for us in the code when we fire up view data or the view did load. It actually gets today's date and time, puts it in the field for us. It plugs it in the date stamp field in the video entity. Then I just print out, just for my sake, the name of the video link with some gibberish there before it. The actual link is, you've seen this before on line 73. The vid link, remember, came from the function we just went over after the user takes the video, comes back to the did finish function for the UI image controller, and it puts the link and the name in the vid link variable. And so now it saves it in there. Now in the next lines of code, 76 through 81, it does a do loop. This do loop is used to see if the data can be saved. So it says try manage object content.save. If it can save it, it saves it, dismisses it, goes back to the main screen with all the names of the videos that have been saved already. If it errors out, it'll just print an error out in the code for the developer to see. Since we're in here already, on the next section of code, the play button, this would be enabled if the user tapped a existing video on the main screen. Like this morning, we did the one called iOSBootCamp. So if I tapped that on the app and I wanted to play it and hit the play button, this is where the code would go. Let movie URL equals nsurl.filename or file URL with path vid link. Vid link we just talked about, except this time it's coming from the actual database. This vid link is. Let player equals AB player URL movie URL as movie URL. It gets that from line 88. The actual direct URL path, meaning the path in your phone or iPad and the name of it. Line 92 declares the player controller with the AVI viewer controller and puts it in a player controller variable. Line 94 declares it now as a controller getting ready to play. Player controller.player equals player. Then line 95 adds this as a child viewer that's not yet in the app. It basically creates a pseudo viewer on top of the view controller with that play controller. So basically what it's doing is taking the view controller that we already have, right? Adding another view on top of that and putting the player in there. Next line of code adds that child view controller to the existing view, which is the one that has the date stamp, the name, the play and save buttons on it. Line 97 puts it inside of a frame. The frame, by the way, is the exact circumference of the view controller, both width and length. Then 99, it plays it. So it plays full screen, as you saw on the overhead when I played the one we just recorded here, and plays full screen for us. Okay, let's go on down on line 149. When you first load, when you go to that, when we go to the app here in a second, and let me go to the screen here to show you. I'll use this as an example on the overhead. When we go here and click record, which you guys will have a record button in the middle, I believe. And then here in a second, I'll go to the next screen. And say we tap on one of these lines, home or coffee cup. If we go to home or coffee cup, I'm going to go back to this screen. It's going to catch line 153 as true. Video DB is going to be true, meaning something's in there we just selected, which is coffee cup. So it's not going to be equal to null. So what it's going to do is take the code from the core data and grab in and populate the text name with whatever the field content is for the name and core data, whatever the field content is for date stamp and core data, plug it in the date field there. And the vid link is coming from the link in core data. And you'll notice when I call it, you just put the name of the core data. In this case, it's video DB dot value 4 key colon, and then in quotes you have to put the actual name, and it is very much syntax oriented, so whatever you named it in core data needs to be named it here exactly. So if I put a caps N instead of lowercase n, wouldn't work. I always do this when I'm naming fields in core data. In fact, you're forced to do this anyway. The field names have to be all lowercase in core data. Now, the entity does not. You can start an entity name with an uppercase, but the fields have to be lowercase. So that's a no-brainer to remember that. And field names will never have spaces. And so just remember that when you're, because these you can actually get wrong because you're manually typing them in. It's not going to have IntelliSense to help you, okay, when you're plugging these in. So it's going to plug this all into the phone or into the app to where when you finally get to that selection in the app and you've selected one of the lines, which we'll do here in a second. I don't remember which one. I think it's coffee cup. Now coffee cup selected, and it has a timestamp of coffee cup and the name I named it, which is home in the actual directory. Now let's pretend it was, or let's keep going on with this. After it gets all the data and plugs it in, it changes the name of the button from save to update. The reason I mentioned this on this one is when we create outlets and actions for this one, we'll create an outlet and action for pretty much all the buttons on this app because we're going to be playing with enabling the buttons, renaming the buttons. You can't do any of that on a button if it is not an outlet. So because we created an outlet of the BTN save button and an action both, we can change the title to whatever we want it to be. In this case, it's update because the buttons, the data already exists. We will enable the save button. We will hide the record button because we won't need it because we're already done the recording. We're just wanting to be able to play. Now let's pretend that we did not hit one of the lines of code or the coffee cup or we hit the plus button here, meaning we're going to add a new video. That brings us to line 165. Here we're going to, on a very, let's see, all the way down to, it's from 167 to 173. All it's doing is formatting the text for the date. It gets today's date on the very first line, 167. Line 168 says, okay, we're getting ready to format this with what's called formatter. Line 169 is going to be a short format for the time, short format for the date. It's going to, on line 171, format the string from date as date. So it's going to format it now with a short date, short time. And it's going to take that and plug it in on 173 to the short date, short time. So if you don't do the short date, short time, it'll give you give you long date, long time. So with seconds also. So it'll be like full date. I think it's day, month, year, hour, minute, seconds is what it's going to give you by default. So I just use the dot short to shorten it up, not make it as long. Line 174, it's going to take the cursor and put it in the name field, which is required before they record a video. So all they have to do is literally start typing the name of the video, which saves a little time. It's going to hide the play button because it's not needed because all we're going to do is record. It's going to enable the save button, or the save button is going to be false. By the way, on the buttons we use for the toolbar, which is a toolbar button, I believe it is, you can't hide those buttons, but you can disable them. All right, you can't hide them. Now, regular buttons you can hide, just like we're doing here on the BTM Play on 175. But toolbar buttons you can't hide, but you can disable them. And that's what I've done here, is disabled the save button for right now, because they can't save it until they've taken the video. Excuse me. All right, we went over line 187. This function does absolutely nothing but show the developer, excuse me, that the video's finished playing. Kicks it out. Doesn't do anything else. We went over 192 function, which is a did finish. Let's go down to 229, all the way down to the bottom of the code. Every video or that you ever create, video type app you create, needs these functions in it, by the way, that we're getting ready to look at here. In fact, and these you have to manually add, by the way. They're not there by default. So if you look on 191, which is the image picker did finish pick with media info, from 191 all the way down on the code has to be manually added to every app that you use a video recorder or player on. So we've already went over the did finish, line 229 and down. We're going to go over the rest of this. On 230, this function here is called movie play did finish playing. So when it finishes playing, it's going to dismiss the player and go back to the view controller at that point. All right. In fact, the user does have to click done on the video in order for that to happen, though. So the video can stop playing. It's going to stay there because they might want to play it again. If they hit done, then it goes to this function here and dismisses that video player. It goes back to the view controller. Line 234, video editor controller did cancel. This one is if you go to take a video, the screen's up, you've not recorded yet or nothing, and you just hit cancel. This is where this goes. Again, it's going to do a self.dismiss, same thing. 239, video editor controller. This one here is used for did save edited video to path. So this one is actually called after the video is taken and you hit use video in the app. When you hit use video, it goes to this function here. We already went over the image picker controller one. It saves the video. Then it comes back here to this function here, line 239, and says, okay, video's been saved successfully. We're going to dismiss the view now and go back to the view controller. Line 244, the function video editor controller. And you'll notice all of these, the last two anyway, have the same name. The last one, though, is if it failed. And it could fail for a number of reasons. An example would be, well, maybe not a number of reasons, but a few reasons. One would be you don't have enough storage on your device. If you don't have enough storage on your device, it'll fail. Other could be, let's say for whatever reason, the built-in save function in iOS failed, which that could happen too. I've seen that happen before. So the code fails for whatever reason, but not the code you did, the code in the actual operating system failed. So those are the top two reasons why it would fail. It very rarely fails ever, but if it does fail, those would be the reasons why. That makes sense. And it would tell you if, by the way, if it was a storage issue, the iOS would pop up an error, not your app. iOS will pop up an error and say, storage is full or near full, cannot save, or cannot perform function, something like that. It wouldn't say not save, it would say not perform function, something like that. So we just went over all the code, but the very top portion of this app, video view controller, if you go to the very top of this code, I want to cover some import statements. and some variable declarations. So on line 11 through 15, which is on page 1, we have to import mobile core services, which we saw that when we went over our reading this morning. That's needed for the image picker controller. AV foundations needed for recording. Core data is needed for core data. Core media is needed because we're using core data in essence to store media. And then AV kit is needed anytime you save and open a video. So you need those import statements always on an app that's going to be doing a video recording or video playing. We already went over line 17, 18. Lines 20 through 20, or through 30 are variables that were added. You have a movie variable on line 21. This is to declare the movie variable for the player controller that's used throughout the app to play the videos. The vid link is a string variable to hold the video link that's saved. 26, video DB is an NSManage object used for when the user taps one of the existing saved videos. It puts it in this variable, that entire manage object. Line 30, in iOS 10 they changed how to declare this one, the let manage object context. This is for data, for core data, and now it's it's actually a shorter bit of code, and it's for every time you use it, every time you create an app for core data. This line of code is always needed for manage object contents because it's needed to bring in data and save data both. And all it's doing is we'll go through it. UI application.share.delegate. This line of code here means any application within iOS has certain rights and privileges of iOS delegates. And what they're looking for in this case is the app delegate for the persistent container, which is core data, and viewing all the context of it, meaning all the data within that persistent container, which would mean all the data within core data for your database, which in this case would be the video container. The number 33, what you'll do when we create the app, because you'll be bringing these in, lines 33 through 44 are all the outlets need to be created. You'll notice BTN back, BTN save, TXT date, TXT name, BTN play, and BTN record. Then on line 48, BTN 49 is the back button function. Just remember when you're creating actions to specifically say on that action, because by default I think it says any when you create an action, you need to make sure and select the UI bar button item, because otherwise it'll be any, which I always select the explicit one, which is UI bar button item. You'll also create an action for BTN save, and again make sure UI bar button item, you select that. Line 86, you'll create an action for the play button, and again make sure and select the type, which is UI button. The function record, we've not went over. All this is doing here, and this was actually in the reading we went over, this record function tests to see if the UI image picker controller sees a camera. This is where it's going to fail on the simulator, okay? And by the way, this record video function is called in the BTN record button. So if you hit the record button on the simulator, this first if statement will fail because you don't have a video available or a camera available. But if you're on a real device it will allow you to keep going. And line 112, I take UI image picker controller, put in the image picker variable, delegate self on 115. The source is the camera. The media type is movie. In the reading we did earlier, I believe the media type was picture. This one's movie. Do we allow editing? No. Do we show camera controls? Yes, meaning you can zoom in and out on the device before you hit record, like you can on a normal record. And then it presents the image picker with the video to record. Now, if the camera's not available, meaning you're on the simulator, it'll print out in the Xcode, camera not available. It'll pop up in Xcode for the user, camera not found, something like that. And on the record button, that's an action one you'll create as well. This one just tests to see when the user taps record, if text name is equal to empty quotes, meaning they've not put anything in the text name, it's going to pop up an alert, which, by the way, this is a default alert right here I'm highlighting on lines 138 through 140. And it has at the top of it on line 138, the title of the box, which is called name required, the message a user will see, please add name for video. It's an alert style pop-up. On 139, it adds this pop-up to an alert with an OK button only. And then it presents itself. If they did type something in the text name, it goes to that record video function that we just went over. All right. And let's see, we already went over view did load. So we went over all of that code. Now let's go over the video table view controller.txt, which is not a lot of code. So 5 pages. So keep flipping your handout there till you get to page 1 of 5 for video table view controller. Now this one you'll notice you have the very same import statements, and they've added one more, I believe foundation is added. The other one doesn't have. But media player, media core services, AV foundation, core data, doesn't have core media, doesn't need that one. But import foundation is needed for this one. Always for video, for data grids, it's needed for that. Okay, you'll notice on this one, no delegates are needed besides a default delegate for UI table view controller. Line 20, I added a variable to store the NS manage object. I call it photo array. Line 23 is a function load DB, which is called every time this app's open to this page. Line 26 declares the manage object. Line 29 fetches the object entity called video from core data. Line 34 through 45 loops through and gets all of the data and puts it in an array, that array called photo array, and finally plugs it into the table view and loads it. So it says here, if let results equals fetch results, meaning there's some data in the manage object, it's going to plug it in there into the table view. If it couldn't fetch it, it doesn't mean it's, just generally means, this print, by the way, would only come out next code. Nothing would show up in the tables, basically, in the rows. If there's an error, the only error would be if you named the entity wrong. That would be an error. So if I put lowercase video, V in video, or I put videos, it would error out. So load DB, the reason I put that in there, by the way, and pretty much every app I ever create core data with, I pretty much use the same function name called load DB to load core data. That way it's just, you're not reinventing the wheel every time. It's the same stuff over and over again, just new field, new content name or entity name, and field names. That's it. That makes sense? That saves time. The back button, all it does is dismiss to the home page, which just has that record button. We don't do anything in the view did load on this one. We do add a view will appear. And the reason I'm using that one is this. View will appear is different than view did load. And the reason, I'll tell you why we use view will appear. If we use view did load, when we went to record something and hit save and came back to that grid of names, the new one wouldn't show up. Because view did load only fires once when it's first hit. It doesn't fire successions when you come back. View will appear fires every time that page is visited. Okay? So that's why I put the code for load DB inside here. So it's going to load every time. So when I hit save on the new recording, it's going to load that new saved video name in that grid. 67 through 670, you don't do anything with it. That's just a default. Did receive memory warning. On the function on 74, override function number of sections, you're going to change the number from 0 to 1. It's going to have 1 section instead of 0 sections. 80 through 84, the function table view, you're going to change the current one in there to return photo array, which is the NS manage object array, dot count. What this is going to do is load in all of the data in rows. Line 88, you'll uncomment this function because it'll be commented out by default. And you're going to update, starting with line 88 there, or actually 89, I just have you replace everything that's in this function with the code here, lines 89 through 95. And all this is doing is, and you'll remember this maybe from last week on your contact database, you had to identify the table with the word cell, cap C. That's important. Then I put in here line 92, let person equals photo array, and photo array is the name of the index they're currently on. So if they're on line 0, line 1 it'd be 0, on line 1 it'd be 2 or be 1. Lines 1 would be 0, line 2 would be 1, so on and so forth. Cell.text label.text, person.value name. I'm only using in the selection of the name showing. Let me show you here. I'm only using the name one, which is what the user types in for the name of the video, which will be, it'll only show up home, like today's will be iOSBootCamp would show up. And then, so this function here is basically going through and finding out the name of all the rows, plugging in all the data for the rows. Numbers 98, row 98 code. This function here, line 99 through 102, is a function you will have to type in, the entire function. All it does is show you what cell you tapped on. That's all it does. So if it's index 0 to whatever, row 0 or whatever. Lines 105, you'll uncomment this function, which is function table view. And this is to allow the user to do the swipe left, delete. If you don't uncomment that, they can't do that. By default, it is commented out. Line 115, the table view here, it goes through and tells on lines 117 through 129, you'll basically replace whatever code's in there with this code. All it does is say if editing style is equal to delete, it's going to allow you to delete that code. You'll notice here on line 119, it deletes it. On 121 through 23, it saves it and then reloads the database after it saves it. And so it'll actually take it off the screen altogether. If there's an error, it'll tell you. Only time you would get an error again is if there's a storage issue or something like that. You generally won't get an error catch. We have to put it in there anyway. Let's see, 131. You won't mess with that one. You'll leave it commented out. 134. I mean, 141. You'll leave that comment. You'll leave that commented like it is by default. 151 on number 12, where it says on comment, override function prepare for segue, and change to go to proper record and proper view controller. This one will be uncomment it. And basically from lines 156 to 164, you'll add that code basically, not replace, you'll just add that code in there. And all it does is, if segue is video, which that's what we'll name it when we create the app, it takes the destination view controller, and view controller, by the way, is the page it's going to, and it plugs in the actual selection row that you just tapped on. It puts it in the NSManage object, and it actually puts it in that variable in view controller, remember, called video DB. It puts it in that variable video DB. So when it goes there, video DB now has that exact row content for the user to use to load. All right. And then the info.plist, I wanted to mention that. That's the last 2 pages. Keep going. It's only one, I think it's 2 pages there on info.plist. It looks like this on the overhead. It starts with a lesser than symbol question marks XML version 1.0. And I think I highlighted on your page not what you have to do. Yeah. So on lines 23 through 28, you'll have to add those lines of code for the user to be prompted to be able to take videos, use a microphone, and use the library, the photo library. Okay? And those, if you don't add those, when you go to test it on your device, it won't work. It won't let it play. Everything will work, but won't let you record or play. And then if you keep going to the very last 2 pages of the binder today, this is the steps to create, and it's on the course site as well, but I thought I'd print it out. These are the steps to create the icon, how to do that. So you'll have that in your binder. All right? All right, you want to take 10 and come back, and then we'll go through, probably take an hour to go through the tutorial on creating the app. And then after that, we'll have you submit it to GitHub. I'll download on my Mac, and I'll have you come up one by one, and we'll port it to your device. Sound good? So let's take 10, because my voice is about gone, as you can tell. Hopefully be back in 10 minutes. I'm not contagious, by the way. I was 3 days ago, but I'm not now. It just don't sound too good. If you could on that test video app, and then go over here, Safari on iPhone, type that in, see what it installs. I just want to check test to make sure it installs. You might have been. Yeah, you can just start with OTA.io. Just have an install application. Install. Tap on that. Install. Install. And UBID.io. Mm-hmm. Yeah. On the app icon. Yeah, just create just like it asks. It tells you. Okay. You just need to upload it. You have to find an image first, like on Google or something. But you can draw your own, but I'm not that great of a drawer, so just find whatever image is kind of cool that'll fit your app, you think. I usually just Google the name, the type of app it is, and just find a cool image or something. Use that. Just go to images. It doesn't matter whatever. Whichever one you like, click on it and you can use it as your icon. Yeah. Download that. Yep. Save it to your just one. Go back to Pixlr. Go to File Open. Go to Documents to grab that image. Then do a Command A, Command C. Go back to the Pixlr app icon. Yep. Then do Command V. And go up to the Edit menu. And you want to go down to freeform, freestyle, yeah, that one. And resize it. Just grab anyone on the right corner, like that right corner, upper right corner. Yeah, and then bring it in. Keep bringing it in to this. Fill it up. You can keep the dimensions or not, whatever. So, there you go. Then hit enter. And then you're ready to go to the file menu. Save as, or save. And I always save it as a Pixlr one first. It'll save the layers and everything if you want to go back later and edit it. So go to the JPEG format, same change the pixel. It's the same, it's a comparable to like PSD and Photoshop. And so just save that. Documents is fine. And then go back and save it again. This time save it as a PNG. Takes a little bit. I guess that's fine. Pixel seems to work better sometimes. But anyway, if you save it to PXD, then I think I have you save PNG, and then the website will actually use makeupicon.com uses the PNG version. Then once you send it that, as you put in your email, it'll send you a zip file of everything. Yeah, there's all like a precompiled icons that you need. Well, when you open it up for your email, there's a folder on the instructions. There's a folder. In fact, I'll pull it up here too. So after you open it up from your email, inside of Xcode, you will go to the app icon section, click on this little icon, and when you open up your extracted folder, there'll be a folder in there called appicon.iconset. Just click and drag it into Xcode. Go back to Xcode where you just came from and select. It'll by default, the app has one called App Icon. You'll just select a new one, which will be App Icon 1. And then you compile it, and then you've got the new icon applied to your app. All right. All right, is everybody ready? All right. So I'm going to start out with this page on the handout you picked up today, which is page 2, I think, for the My Video app. And we're going to be creating a single view core data app. It'll be universal, by the way. And we're going to call it My Video app. So go and fire up Xcode. All right, so as soon as you fire up Xcode, let's go to File menu, New Project. And we're selecting single view application. Next, bless you. And then product name is My Video app. Make sure the language is Swift. Universal devices, check mark core data, and uncheck the bottom unit test. So I'll keep that up there for a second. It's the same, it's on your handout as well, I believe. Everybody got that? And when you click next, just save it in the default area, which I believe will be, well, mine's desktop. I don't want that. Well, desktop's fine. You want to save it to desktop, that's fine. Desktop or documents, either one would work on the left. Just click desktop or documents. I'm clicking desktop on mine, I guess. Then click create. So we should have display name should be my video app. Bundle identifiers edu.rockvalleycollege.myvideoapp version 1.0 build 1. So first thing we're going to do is create our core data. So on number 3, it asks us to add our core data entity and attributes. So click on the myvideoapp.xc data model ID. Just like that there. And what we want to do is click on the plus symbol at the bottom of Xcode called add entity. It'll add in a name called entity. You just double click on the name entity and override it with the word video caps V. And then we're going to plug in under attributes 3 attributes, and it's going to be date stamp, link, and name. All one word. Date stamp, link, and name. On the handout, but they're really small text there, notice on the handout. So the type for all 3 is string. By default, it'll be undefined. I usually add them all, and then I do the type later. So I added all mine first. Name, date stamp, and link are the 3 attributes. And the name type, or the type is a string on all 3. Excuse me. All right. So we've added our entity for core data. We've added our 3 attributes, name, date stamp, link, all lowercase, type string. Now we'll click on main storyboard on number 4 on the handout. When we go to main storyboard, it's going to bring us to the view controller. As soon as it shows up for us, we'll go ahead and hide the outline whenever it shows up. It'll take a little bit to initialize it the first time. And we're going to be adding in some objects. So remember here on the overhead, if you click on this little icon here, it'll hide the outline that my mouse is hovering on the overhead. And so what we're going to do is we're going to add in a title view at the top. We're going to be adding in two bar button items for back and save. Then we're going to do 2 text fields underneath that, and then 2 buttons for play and record. So I'll go up on the overhead and pull it up a little bit bigger that way. Might be easier. So you guys will be adding a navigation bar. In the navigation bar, when you add it, you'll double click in the middle of it and name video. 2 bar button items, 2 text fields, and 2 buttons here. And I'll do it along with you. So I'll keep that on the screen and we'll come back and forth on it. The top one is called navigation bar, by the way. Excuse me. When it's finished, it should look something like that. I'll blow it up a little bit bigger. So roughly like that. Doesn't have to be exact like mine, but that's pretty much what it should look like when you're done adding the objects. The play button, what I did on that one, I just put this play in the middle, put it in the middle of these two text fields. I'll put the record button to the right, here lining up with the two text fields, and this one in the middle. Remember when you're placing your objects too on this, when you click on these, you can line them up when you click on them after you rename them to make sure they're where you want them to be. Even on the text fields, make sure that the text fields like mine are centered, whatever the width of yours is. What I'll do is I'll work with you guys all the way through all the objects, and we've got the table view to still add and the main view controller to add. Once I do all that, I'll let you go on your own on typing your code in. You can do all that once all the binding's done in object creation. Because I know some of you are still working on it. So the way, hopefully by now you understand, when you're creating an app, you always create the objects first, your views first, your objects second, binding third for outlets and actions. Then finally, after you've done that, do the alignment, and then finally, lastly, your code is the last piece you'll do on your development. How many's still working on getting your placement of objects on there? Okay. Just let me know when you're done, and we'll do it together. If you guys want to work ahead, if you can, definitely. You don't have to wait. Huh? Supposed to do what now?
Create a subclass. Object subclass.
Nope, we don't need to do that anymore. I think I told you earlier on the NS managed subclass, we don't have to do that anymore on 10. It's done for us already, so we don't need to do that anymore. We used to. Like I said, just the last version you had to. It does it for us, I guess, in 10 now. Because if we did do that, by the way, now it would error out. As I tried that, it didn't work. So. Okay, wherever you're at on this, let's go ahead and start creating outlets on this, okay? So we're going to create first our outlets, actions, and delegates. We're going to create now. We've got our two buttons at the top, right? We've got the two text fields and the two buttons here at the bottom. So all of these I've just selected, we're going to be creating outlets. And you'll notice on number 4, we're going to create an outlet for BTN save, BTN play, BTN record, TXT date, TXT name. Now just if you look on the overhead, this here that I'm highlighting is the date. This is the name. Everything else is self-explanatory as far as what the buttons are, the objects are. Make sure and name them exactly as I have you name them here in the outlets. And I'll do it with you first. We'll start right in the order that I have them here on the handout. We'll start with the BTN save first. Does anybody remember when we're getting ready to create outlets, what do we have to click on to create an outlet? Once we've selected an item, where over here do I need to click on? Anybody remember? Yeah, this little double circle one, this assistant editor. If I click on the assistant editor, which looks like the circle within a circle, it'll bring up this screen, which will have in it the code for that object or those objects or view controller. And here's what a trick I always do. I will hide this left bar here, right here. So if you click up here on the overhead, you'll see right here, hide the navigation one. And we can even hide the right one too to give us more space to where yours looks like mine. So if we hide both the right and left navigator and the utilities, because right now yours looks like this, you can hide these easily like that, which makes it looks a lot more room to type in. Before I ever start creating outlets or actions in the code, I will give myself some room. So if you look on the overhead, I put my cursor up there on the class view controller line at the end of it, and I'm going to hit return a number of times to give me some space here to put in my outlets and actions. So if you want to do that before you get started, you can. And again, you don't have to do it that way. That's just the way I find it's easier to give me more space to put my outlets and actions. So from the handout on number 4, the first one we're going to do for an outlet is BTN save. And again, I'm going to go about this pace where I'm going right now. If you guys want to go, some of you I know want to go, you can move ahead. You don't have to wait on me. But I'm going to try to go slower to where those who need it can get it. So don't feel bad about going ahead. But if you get stuck on something, if you go ahead, just wait. You'll have to wait till I get there to help you. If that's okay. Okay. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and do the save button first. I'm going to do a command, click, drag over to the view controller. And we're going to call it BTN save, just like it's typed on the page there. BTN caps S. And then click connect. BTN save. It'll put an IV outlet in there. Next, I'm going to do BTN play. So find the play button. Control click drag it right below the BTN save. BTN play, caps P. Click connect. I'm going to do BTN record. Control click drag. BTN record. So far I've done BTN save, BTN play, BTN record. The next one is TXT date. That's this one here, the top text view. Control click drag it and type in TXT date, caps D. And click connect. And then TXT name is the last object for outlet. Control click drag that. And that's TXT name, caps N. So far I've done the BTN save, BTN play, BTN record, TXT name, and TXT date as an outlet. Next is actions. We've got to create 1, 2, 3, 4 actions. BTN save, BTN play, BTN record, BTN back. So BTN save will be my first one. Control click drag it. This one though, I'm going to select, instead of the outlet, I'm going to select action. Make sure on this one also, like I talked about earlier, you want to make sure and select the type from any to UI bar button. And then this one is BTN save. Same name as the outlet. So it's an action. I named it BTN save. And the type is UI bar button item. And then connect it. Then I'm going to do BTN play. Change it from outlet to action. name BTN play with a caps P, type UI button instead of any, and click connect. Then BTN record, action, BTN record, caps R, type UI button, click connect. Then BTN back is the last action. Change a connection to action from outlet. BTN back with the caps B, type from any to UI bar button, click connect. So there is my actions I just created that we created together: BTN save, BTN back, BTN record, and BTN save. BTN save, BTN play, BTN record, BTN back. You'll notice on number 4, under number 4, delegate, TXT name. That one is pretty simple. All you got to do is control click drag the text name, or the, yeah, not the date, the text name, the bottom one. This one here. Control click drag the text name to the view controller, the little yellow thing, yellow icon, and select delegate. Release it and then select delegate under outlets. And I'll do that again. I control click drag the bottom text field to the delegate and then release it and select delegate. Okay. And the reason we got to do that is for the keyboard. So far we've created the core data, we've added the objects and bound the outlets and actions to the view controller on the storyboard. Everybody got that? Everybody need help getting up to that speed? No? Okay. Now what we're going to do on number 5 is add the table view controller to the storyboard. But before we do that, I'm going to bring back in my, up here on the upper right corner of Xcode, I'm going to bring back in my utilities and bring back in my navigator. And I'm going to click on this icon here on Xcode, which is the standard editor icon. And now I'm going to scroll up to the top of my object viewer on the bottom right of Xcode, and I'm going to drag in to the left of the view controller, the table view controller, this one right here. This one I've highlighted on the overhead. I'm going to click and drag that one into my storyboard on the left side. Just like that. Now, with that selected, all right, well, before I select that, I'm going to add a new table view controller class. So on number 6, I have us add a new table view controller class and name it video table view controller. So if you go over here to the left side of Xcode, on the folder that says my video app,